The Vorthon Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were the most feared race in all the known worlds. Every species that met them either died or became slaves. The Vorthans stood 9 feet tall with thick scales that could stop bullets. Their claws could cut through steel like paper. Their teeth were sharp enough to bite through bone. Captain Zextar stood on the bridge of his warship called Bloodfang. He was the most feared warrior in the Vorthon fleet. His ship had never lost a battle. His crew had killed millions of beings across the galaxy. Today they had received news about a new species. "Sir, we have found another race," said Lieutenant Kravex as he looked at his screen. "They call themselves humans. They live on a blue planet in a small star system." Zextar looked at the data on his screen. The humans had just learned how to travel between stars. Their ships were small and weak. Their weapons looked like toys compared to Vorthon guns. These humans had only been in space for 50 years. "How many ships do they have?" Zextar asked. 23 ships, sir. Most are used for exploring space, not fighting." Zextar laughed. His laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. 23 ships? We have conquered races with 1,000 ships. This will be easy." The Vorthon fleet was massive. 13 ships moved through space toward the human world. Each ship was the size of a city. The biggest ship was Bloodfang, which carried 5,000 Vorthon warriors. The other 12 ships each carried 2,000 fighters. "How long to reach their planet?" Zextar asked. 3 days at full speed, sir." "Good. Send word to the Empire. Tell them we will have new slaves soon." For 3,000 years, every species had reacted the same way when they saw the Vorthon fleet. Some tried to run away, others sent messages begging for mercy. A few tried to fight but gave up quickly when they saw how powerful the Vorthons were. The Vorthons had a simple way of dealing with new races. First, they would demand total surrender. If the species said yes, they would become slaves, but stay alive. If they said no, the Vorthons would kill everyone and take their planet anyway. "What do we know about human weapons?" Zextar asked as he studied the reports. "Very basic, sir. They use missiles with explosive warheads. Their energy weapons are weak. Their shields cannot stop our plasma cannons." Zextar nodded. Plasma cannons could melt through any known metal. The Vorthans had used them to destroy the defenses of 200 different worlds. No species had ever found a way to stop them. "What about their military?" Zextar asked. "They have something called the Terran Defense Force. Their leader is Admiral Jake Morrison. He commands all human military ships." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Morrison sat in his command center. Alarms were ringing throughout the building. Officers ran back and forth carrying reports. The big screen at the front of the room showed 13 red dots moving toward Earth. "Sir, the alien ships will be here in 72 hours, said Lieutenant Lisa Carter. She was the communications officer. Morrison looked at the numbers on his screen. The alien ships were huge. Each one was 10 times bigger than the largest human ship. Their energy readings showed weapons that could destroy entire cities. "What do we know about them?" Morrison asked. "Nothing, sir. They appeared at the edge of our sensor range 3 hours ago. They're moving straight toward Earth at incredible speed." Morrison had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in 3 wars and seen many battles. But he had never faced anything like this. The alien ships had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of human science. "Send a message to all colonies," Morrison ordered. "Tell them to prepare for the worst. If these aliens are hostile, Earth might not survive." Colonel Ben Rogers stepped forward. He was Morrison's second in command. "Sir, what are our orders?" Morrison looked at the tactical display. 23 human ships against 13 alien monsters. Every calculation showed the same result. The aliens would win easily. "Gather the fleet around Earth," Morrison said. "Every ship we have. If they want our planet, they'll have to fight for it." "Sir, we don't stand a chance against technology like that." Morrison turned to face his officers. His voice was calm but firm. Maybe not, but we're human. We don't give up without a fight. Across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. Many had been slaves of the Vorthons for hundreds of years. They knew what would happen to the humans. It was always the same story. The Vorthons would arrive, demand surrender, and either enslave or destroy another race. Some aliens felt sorry for the humans, but none tried to help. The Vorthons were too powerful. Any species that helped their enemies would be destroyed. Dr. Kevin Phillips worked in his laboratory on Earth. He was the head of human weapons research. For the past 3 hours, he had been studying the energy readings from the alien ships. The power output is incredible, he told his assistant. Each ship has more energy than our entire planet uses in a year. His assistant, Dr. Mary Johnson, looked worried. Can we build weapons to fight them? Not in 3 days. Maybe not ever. Technology is too advanced, but Phillips kept working. It was his job to find a way to defend Earth, even if it seemed impossible. Back on Bloodfang, Zextar prepared his warriors for battle. The ship's main deck was filled with thousands of Vorthon soldiers. They cleaned their weapons and sharpened their claws. Brothers, Zextar spoke to his crew. In 3 days, we will add another world to our empire. These humans will learn what happens when they meet the Vorthons. The warriors roared their approval. They had never failed to conquer a planet. They would not fail now. As the Vorthon fleet moved through space toward Earth, both sides prepared for war. The Vorthons expected an easy victory. The humans prepared to fight against impossible odds. Neither side knew that this battle would change the galaxy forever. The Vorthon fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Captain Zexatar expected to see human ships running away in fear. Instead, he found something that shocked him. The entire human fleet was arranged in a perfect battle formation around their planet. Sir, all 23 human ships are in defensive positions, reported Kravax. They're not trying to escape. Zextar stared at his screen. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever stood their ground like this. Most races sent messages begging for mercy. Others tried to run to distant stars. But these humans were waiting for a fight. Are they sending any communications? Zextar asked. Yes, sir. They're broadcasting the same message on all channels. Nothruid. Main screen flickered to life. A human male appeared wearing a military uniform. He looked small compared to the massive Vorthans, but his eyes showed no fear. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force, the human said. You have entered human space without permission. State your intentions or leave immediately. The Vorthan bridge fell silent. No species had ever given them orders before. The warriors looked at each other in disbelief. Some began to growl with anger. Zextar's mandibles clicked together. This was either very brave or very stupid. Open a channel to their leader. The screen changed to show Morrison on his ship's bridge. The human vessel looked tiny and fragile compared to the massive Bloodfang. Morrison stood straight and looked directly at the camera. I am Captain Zextar of the Vorthan Empire, the alien commander announced. Your species has 1 hour to surrender. Those who submit will become slaves. Those who resist will die. Choose now, human. Morrison's face showed no emotion. He stared back at the 9-foot-tall alien without blinking. We choose option 3. Go to hell. The transmission ended. The Vorthon bridge erupted in roars of rage. No one had ever spoken to a Vorthon captain like that. Warriors slammed their fists on consoles and demanded immediate attack. Destroy them all, Zextar ordered. Show them what happens when they insult the Empire. The battle began with plasma cannons firing across space. The Vorthon weapons were incredibly powerful. Each shot could punch through the hull of a human ship with ease. The first volley destroyed 2 human vessels in brilliant explosions, but something strange happened. Instead of breaking formation and running away, the remaining human ships moved closer to the Vorthons. They fired their weapons even though their shots barely scratched the alien shields. Commander Rick Taylor piloted the destroyer called Defiance. His ship had been hit 3 times and was losing power. Most of his crew was dead or wounded. Any sane person would have retreated. Instead, Taylor did something no Vorthan had ever seen. He aimed his damaged ship directly at a Vorthon cruiser and pushed his engines to maximum power. "This is for Earth," Taylor said, as his ship crashed into the alien vessel. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball that lit up space for millions of miles. On Bloodfang, the Vorthans watched in shock. An enemy ship had just destroyed itself to take down one of their cruisers. This was not normal behavior. No species had ever fought with such crazy determination. "What kind of creatures are these?" Kravex asked. "They fight like wild animals." Captain Zextar had no answer. In 3,000 years, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were losing badly, but they kept fighting. More human ships were destroyed, but each one took down as many Vorthons as possible before dying. Commander Amy Rodriguez commanded the cruiser called Resolute. She watched her fellow humans die one by one, but she did not panic. Instead, she studied the alien ships carefully. "All ships, I've found something," Rodriguez broadcast on the emergency channel. "Their shields flicker every 12 seconds. If we time our shots right, we can hit them when they're weak." The remaining human ships coordinated their attack. When the Vorthon shields flickered, all the humans fired at once. The concentrated firepower broke through and damaged a Vorthon cruiser. "Impossible," Zextar snarled. "Their weapons are too weak to hurt us." But the humans had learned something important. They could hurt the Vorthons if they worked together. The alien ships were powerful, but they were not perfect. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Davis launched from Earth in a small fighter ship. His mission was suicide, and he knew it. He carried a nuclear warhead that he planned to detonate inside a Vorthon. Ship Davis flew his fighter through the battle zone, dodging plasma bolts and debris. Enemy fire destroyed his engines, but he kept going using emergency thrusters. He crashed through the hangar bay of a Vorthon cruiser and activated his bomb. The nuclear explosion tore the alien ship apart from the inside. It was the first Vorthan vessel to be completely destroyed by human weapons. On Earth, Dr. Phillips worked frantically in his laboratory. Pieces of destroyed Vorthon ships had fallen through the atmosphere. He was studying the alien metal, looking for any weakness. "The hull material is incredible," Phillips reported to Morrison. "But I found something interesting about their power cores. They use antimatter for energy, but the containment field has a specific frequency." "What does that mean?" Morrison asked while watching another human ship explode on his screen. "If we can disrupt that frequency, their power cores might become unstable. How long do you need?" "Give me 18 hours and access to our nuclear arsenal." The battle continued to rage in space. The Vorthons had lost 2 ships and suffered damage to 4 others. This was unthinkable. A primitive species was actually hurting them. "Sir, the humans are regrouping," Kravex reported. "They're forming a new attack pattern." Zextar watched as the surviving human ships moved into position. There were only 8 left, but they showed no signs of giving up. If anything, they seemed more determined than before. Captain Betty Harris commanded the human battleship called Liberty. Her ship was badly damaged, but her weapons still worked. She had watched 13 of her fellow captains die in the past 2 hours. "All ships, this is Harris," she broadcast. "We're going to make them pay for every human life they've taken." The 8 remaining human ships charged directly at the Vorthon fleet. It was a desperate attack with no hope of victory. But the humans fought with such fury that even the Vorthons began to feel something they had never experienced before. Fear. For the first time in 3,000 years, Vorthon warriors started to doubt their invincibility. These humans were supposed to be weak and primitive, but they fought like demons. They would rather die than surrender. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups on the human planet," a Vorthon officer reported. "They appear to be launching more weapons." Zextar looked at his tactical display. More human ships were rising from Earth, but these looked different. They carried massive warheads that gave off strange energy readings. Dr. Phillips had worked for 18 hours straight. He had modified 20 nuclear missiles with frequency disruptors, designed to destabilize Vorthon antimatter cores. It was a desperate plan based on limited data. "Launch all missiles," Morrison ordered. "Target the biggest ships first." The modified nuclear weapons streaked through space toward the Vorthan fleet. The aliens shot down most of them with their defensive guns, but 3 missiles got through and struck the flagship Bloodfang. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's power core began to fluctuate. Alarms rang throughout the vessel as the antimatter containment started to fail. "All hands, abandon ship," Zextar ordered as his mighty flagship began to tear itself apart. The explosion was visible from Earth as Bloodfang died in nuclear fire. The most powerful ship in the Vorthon fleet was gone, and with it went the aliens' confidence. For the first time in their history, the Vorthons had met an enemy that refused to be conquered. The destruction of Bloodfang sent shockwaves through the Vorthon fleet. Captain Zextar floated in space inside an escape pod, watching his flagship burn. The ship that had conquered dozens of worlds was now nothing but twisted metal and fire. Lieutenant Kravex had also escaped in a pod. His voice came through the comm system, filled with something Vorthons rarely felt. "Sir, how did they destroy Bloodfang? Their weapons are primitive." Zextar had no answer. The humans had somehow turned their own power against them. The antimatter core that made Bloodfang so powerful had become its weakness. A rescue ship picked up the surviving Vorthons. Captain Zextar took command of the cruiser called Darkclaw. He now had only 10 ships left out of 13. The humans had cost him 3 vessels and thousands of warriors. "Sir, we're receiving new intelligence about human tactics," reported the communications officer. "They're using our own technology against us." On Earth, Dr. Phillips was already working on his next weapon. The frequency disruptor had worked, but he needed something better. He studied more pieces of Vorthan hull that had crashed on the planet. "The metal is incredibly strong," Phillips told his team. "But it has a weakness. When it gets too hot, it becomes brittle." Dr. Mary Johnson looked at the test results. "How hot are we talking about?" "Hotter than anything we can normally produce. But I have an idea." Phillips began working on a new type of missile. Instead of trying to break through Vorthon armor, he would heat it up until it cracked. He called his new weapon a thermal lance. Meanwhile, the space battle continued. The 8 surviving human ships had regrouped near Earth's moon. They were badly damaged but still fighting. Captain Amy Rodriguez had taken command after Admiral Morrison's ship was destroyed. "All ships, report status," Rodriguez called out. One by one, the human captains responded. Most had lost half their crew. Their ships were running on emergency power. Their weapons were nearly empty, but none of them talked about surrender. "We need a new plan," said Captain Tony Mitchell from the destroyer called Resolute. "We can't win a straight fight." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The Vorthons were regrouping too. They were more careful now, keeping their distance, and using long-range weapons. The aliens had learned to respect human determination. "I have an idea," Rodriguez said. "But it's crazy." She explained her plan to the other captains. It involved using the asteroid belt as cover and setting up an ambush. The humans would pretend to retreat, then strike when the Vorthans followed them. Captain Laura Bell commanded the cruiser called Vengeance. Her ship was the most damaged of all. "My engines are barely working. I won't be able to keep up." "Then, you'll be our surprise," Rodriguez replied. "Hide behind the largest asteroid. When they pass by, hit them with everything you have." The plan required perfect timing and a lot of luck, but the humans had something the Vorthons didn't expect. They were getting smarter with each battle. Colonel Ben Rogers coordinated the defense from Earth's surface. He had been watching the battle through telescopes and radar. The aliens were powerful, but they were not perfect. "Dr. Phillips, how are those new weapons coming?" Rogers asked. "Almost ready. I need another 6 hours to finish the thermal lances." "You have 4 hours. The aliens are moving toward Earth again." Phillips pushed his team harder. They worked without rest, building weapons that had never been tested. It was humanity's last chance to survive. In space, the human ships began their retreat toward the asteroid belt. The Vorthans followed, thinking the humans were finally running away. Captain Zextar ordered his ships to pursue and destroy the fleeing enemies. "Sir, shouldn't we be more careful?" Kravex asked. "These humans have surprised us before." "They're running," Zextar replied. "We've broken their spirit. Now we finish them." The Vorthon fleet moved through the asteroid belt, hunting for human ships. They didn't notice the hidden weapons platforms that Dr. Phillips's team had secretly placed on the larger asteroids. Commander Tony Mitchell waited on Ceres, the largest asteroid. His team had spent months building a secret base inside the rock. Now it was time to use it. "All platforms, prepare to fire," Mitchell whispered into his communicator. Hidden gun turrets powered up throughout the asteroid belt. Each one was armed with the new thermal lance weapons. The humans had turned the entire asteroid field into a trap. Captain Amy Rodriguez watched from her hiding spot behind a large rock. The Vorthon ships were spread out, searching for human vessels. They had no idea they were surrounded. "All units, fire on my command," Rodriguez said. 3, 2, 1, fire." The asteroid belt erupted in weapons fire. Dozens of thermal lances struck the Vorthon ships from all directions. The superheated beams made the alien armor glow red-hot, then white-hot, then crack apart. 2 Vorthon cruisers lost their hulls and exploded. A third ship was crippled when its armor failed. Thar. Aliens found themselves under attack from enemies they couldn't see. "Where are they firing from?" Zextar demanded as his ship shook from impact. "The asteroids, sir. They've hidden weapons in the rocks." It was a brilliant strategy. The humans had used the asteroid belt like a fortress, turning space debris into a weapon. The Vorthons had never seen anything like it. Captain Laura Bell emerged from her hiding spot behind the largest asteroid. Her ship was barely functional, but her weapons still worked. She flew directly at the nearest Vorthon cruiser. "This is for Admiral Morrison," Bell said as she opened fire with everything she had. Her thermal lances hit the alien ship at point-blank range. The Vorthon armor melted like butter. The enemy cruiser exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire asteroid belt. But Bell's ship was caught in the explosion. The Vengeance died with her target, taking another brave human crew with it. On Earth, Dr. Phillips watched the battle through satellite feeds. His thermal lances were working better than he had hoped. The Vorthon ships were taking heavy damage. "We need more weapons," Phillips told his team. "If we can keep this up, we might actually win." His assistant, Dr. Johnson, looked worried. "We're running out of materials, and the aliens are learning our tactics." She was right. The Vorthans were already adapting to the thermal lances. They began firing at the asteroids, destroying the hidden weapon platforms. Their armor was being reinforced with heat shields. Captain Zextar regrouped his remaining ships. He now had only 6 vessels left out of 13. The humans had cost him more ships in one day than he had lost in 50 years of conquest. "Sir, the humans are retreating toward their planet," Kravex reported. "Good. We'll finish them there." But Zextar was beginning to understand something terrible. These humans were not like other species. They didn't fight for glory or conquest. They fought for survival, and that made them incredibly dangerous. The remaining human ships limped back toward Earth. Only 4 vessels were still operational. But they had proven something important. The mighty Vorthon Empire could be beaten. Captain Rodriguez took command of the human fleet. Her ship was damaged, but her crew was determined. "All ships, prepare for the final battle. We're going to defend our home." The stage was set for the last confrontation. The Vorthons had superior technology and more ships, but the humans had something more powerful than weapons. They had the will to never give up. As both fleets prepared for the final battle, neither side knew that this fight would change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The age of Vorthon dominance was about to end. Captain Zextar stared at the tactical display showing his remaining fleet, 6 ships. Out of 13 mighty Vorthon vessels, only 6 survived. The humans had destroyed 7 ships with technology that should have been useless against Vorthon armor. "Sir, the human ships are taking position around their planet," Lieutenant Kravex reported. His voice shook slightly, something that would have been impossible a day ago. Zextar studied the enemy formation. 4 human ships arranged in a defensive pattern near Earth. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they showed no signs of surrender. These creatures fought with a determination that scared even Vorthon warriors. "What are our casualties?" Zextar asked. 7,000 dead, sir. Another 2,000 wounded. 7,000 Vorthon warriors dead. It was the worst defeat in the Empire's history. These humans had killed more Vorthons in one day than some species managed in entire wars. On Earth, Captain Amy Rodriguez coordinated the final defense. Her ship, Liberty, was badly damaged but still fighting. The other 3 human vessels were in similar condition. They had maybe 2 hours of combat left before their weapons ran out. "Dr. Phillips, please tell me you have something new for us," Rodriguez called over the comm system. Phillips' voice came back tired but determined. "I'm sending you the plans for Mark 7 thermal lances. They're twice as powerful as the old ones. But I only have enough materials for 12 missiles. 12 missiles against 6 alien ships," Rodriguez said. "We'll have to make every shot count." Colonel Ben Rogers stood in the command center on Earth's surface. Through the windows, he could see the lights of the space battle far above. Each flash meant more humans were dying to protect their planet. "Sir, we're getting reports from other human colonies," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter. "They want to help, but their ships won't arrive for 3 days. 3 days too late," Rogers replied. "This battle will be over in 3 hours, one way or another." In space, Captain Pete Davis piloted the destroyer called Defiance. His ship had lost most of its weapons, but the engines still worked. He had been thinking about something since the battle started. "Captain Rodriguez, I have an idea," Davis called over the comm. "These aliens have never fought anyone who uses ramming attacks. They don't know how to defend against it." Rodriguez understood immediately. "You want to ram their ships? If I can disable their flagship, the rest might retreat." The Vorthons seemed to follow their leader without question. It was a suicide mission, but it might work. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. "Do it," Rodriguez ordered. "We'll cover you." Davis turned his ship toward the Vorthon formation. The aliens were approaching Earth in a tight group, their plasma cannons charging for the final attack. They expected to destroy the remaining human ships quickly. Captain Zextar watched the human ships maneuver. "They're spreading out, probably trying to make us split our forces." "Sir, one of their ships is heading directly toward us," Kravex reported. "Destroy it!" The Vorthon ships opened fire on Davis's destroyer. Plasma bolts struck the human vessel, tearing holes in its hull. But Davis kept coming, pushing his damaged engines past their safety limits. "This is for Earth," Davis said as his ship collided with the Vorthon flagship. The explosion was massive. Both ships died in a ball of nuclear fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. The Vorthon flagship Darkclaw was gone, and with it went Captain Zextar and 1,000 alien warriors. The remaining Vorthon ships suddenly had no leader. Lieutenant Kravex took command, but he was young and inexperienced. The loss of Zextar had shaken the alien fleet. Captain Rodriguez seized the opportunity. "All ships, Attack now while they're confused. The 3 remaining human vessels launched. Their new thermal lance missiles. 12 superheated beams streaked through space toward the alien ships. The Vorthons tried to shoot them down, but half the missiles got through. 2 more Vorthon cruisers took critical damage. Their armor melted and their hulls cracked open. One ship lost power completely and began drifting helplessly. The other managed to stay operational but was badly wounded. Dr. Phillips watched the battle from his laboratory. His weapons were working, but the humans were running out of ships. 3 human vessels against 4 alien ones. The odds were still against them. "We need something bigger," Phillips told his team. "Something that can take out multiple ships at once." Dr. Johnson looked at the data from previous attacks. "What if we overloaded their power cores again? But this time, we used the explosion to damage nearby ships." Phillips studied the idea. If they could cause one Vorthon ship to explode near the others, the chain reaction might destroy the entire fleet. "It's risky," Phillips said. "We'd have to get close enough to plant the device manually." "I'll do it," said Captain Maria Santos. She had been listening to the conversation from her fighter ship. "My engines are damaged anyway. I can't retreat even if I wanted to." Santos piloted her small fighter toward the Vorthon formation. The aliens were regrouping after the missile attack. They didn't pay much attention to one tiny human ship. "Rodriguez, I'm going to plant a frequency disruptor on their lead ship," Santos reported. "When it goes off, get your ships as far away as possible." "Understood. Good luck, Maria." Santos flew her fighter through the gap between 2 Vorthon cruisers. Enemy fire damaged her wings, but she kept going. Her target was the largest remaining ship, a heavy cruiser called Bloodstorm. The fighter crashed into the alien ship's hull. Santos activated her frequency disruptor and set it to overload. She had 30 seconds before the device would destabilize the Vorthon power core. "Tell my family I died fighting," Santos said over the comm. Then her signal went dead. The explosion was incredible. The Vorthon cruiser's antimatter core went critical, releasing energy equal to a small star. The blast destroyed Bloodstorm and heavily damaged the 2 ships next to it. Lieutenant Kravex watched in horror as his fleet died around him. In less than 6 hours, the humans had destroyed 10 of 13 Vorthon ships. His mighty empire was being beaten by a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. "Sir, 2 more ships are reporting critical damage," an officer said. "Their power cores are failing." Kravex looked at his tactical display. He had 2 ships left that could still fight. The humans had 3 damaged vessels. By any logical calculation, the Vorthons should still win. But logic didn't matter anymore. These humans fought like demons. They would rather die than surrender. Every Vorthon victory came at a terrible cost. "Sir, what are your orders?" the officer asked. Kravex stared at the screen for a long moment. His entire fleet was gone. Thousands of warriors were dead. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been beaten by primitive humans. For the first time in Vorthon history, a commander made a decision that shocked his own crew. "Signal retreat," Kravex ordered. "We're leaving this system." "Sir," the officer couldn't believe what he heard. "You heard me. Signal all ships to withdraw immediately." The surviving Vorthon vessels turned away from Earth and activated their hyperspace drives. In minutes, they were gone, leaving behind the wreckage of their mighty fleet. On Earth, Captain Rodriguez couldn't believe her sensors. "They're running. Away. The aliens are actually retreating." Cheers erupted from every human ship and every command center on the planet. Against all odds, humanity had won. The mighty Vorthon Empire had been defeated by a species they thought was weak and primitive. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 19 human ships had been destroyed. Thousands of brave men and women had died defending their home. The Bop planet was safe, but at a price that would never be forgotten. Colonel Rogers stood in his command center, watching the last Vorthan ships disappear into hyperspace. Send word to all human colonies. The threat is over. Earth is safe. The impossible had happened. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. The galaxy would never be the same again. 3 weeks after the battle, Lieutenant Kravex stood before the Vorthan High Council on their homeworld. The massive chamber was filled with the Empire's most powerful leaders. Their scales were darker and their claws sharper than regular soldiers. These were the beings who had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. "You dare return here after such a defeat?" growled Supreme Commander Vex Thul. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You lost 10 ships to a primitive species." Kravex kept his head down. "Supreme Commander, the humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not fear death. They use tactics we have never seen." "Excuses," hissed another council member. "The mighty Captain Zextar was killed by creatures who barely know how to fly between stars." But Supreme Commander Vexthul raised his hand for silence. He had been studying the battle reports for weeks. The humans had done something impossible. They had beaten the Vorthan Empire in open combat. "Tell me about their weapons," Vexthul ordered. "They turned our own technology against us," Kravex explained. "They found ways to disrupt our power cores and melt our armor. But it was not just their weapons, Supreme Commander. It was their spirit. They never stopped fighting, even when defeat was certain." The council chamber fell silent. For 3,000 years, every species had either surrendered quickly or been destroyed. No one had ever fought the Vorthons to a standstill. Meanwhile, on Earth, the news of humanity's victory was spreading across the galaxy. Captain Amy Rodriguez, now promoted to Admiral, received her first communication from an alien species that was not trying to conquer them. "This is Ambassador Zilek of the Kellen Republic," the message said. The alien on the screen looked like a tall, thin humanoid with blue skin. "We have heard of your victory over the Vorthans. Our people have been slaves of the Empire for 200 years. We wish to speak with you about an alliance." Rodriguez was shocked. An alien species wanted to be friends with humanity instead of trying to destroy them. "Dr. Phillips, are you seeing this?" Phillips nodded from his position at the science station. "Admiral, we're receiving similar messages from 12 different species. They're all former Vorthan slaves asking for our help." The victory over the Vorthons had done more than save Earth. It had given hope to enslaved species across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, they believed the Empire could be defeated. Colonel Ben Rogers, now General Rogers, coordinated Earth's response to these messages. "We need to be careful. We barely survived one battle. We're not ready to fight the entire Vorthan Empire." "Maybe we don't have to fight them," Rodriguez suggested. "Maybe the Empire is weaker than we thought." She was right. Across Vorthan space, rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds. Species that had been slaves for generations were rising up against their oppressors. The news of humanity's victory had spread like wildfire. On the Vorthan homeworld, Supreme, Commander Vex Thul received reports of uprisings throughout the Empire. Slave species were attacking Vorthan installations. Some had even captured entire planets. "How many rebellions are we facing?" Vex Thul asked his intelligence officer. 47 confirmed uprisings, Supreme Commander. More are starting every day. The rebels are using human tactics they learned from the battle reports." Vex Thul slammed his fist on the table. "These insects dare to copy human strategies against us?" But the truth was undeniable. The humans had shown the galaxy that the Vorthons could be beaten. Every enslaved species now knew that their oppressors were not invincible. Dr. Phillips worked day and night to improve human technology. The victory over the Vorthons had given him access to advanced alien equipment. He studied the wreckage of destroyed ships, learning how their weapons and shields worked. "We can build ships twice as powerful as anything we had before," Phillips reported to Admiral Rodriguez. "The Vorthon technology is incredibly advanced." "How long will it take?" Rodriguez asked. 6 months to build our first new warship. 2 years to rebuild the entire fleet. Rodriguez nodded. Do it. Something tells me we're going to need those ships. She was right. The Vortan Empire was not going to ignore the rebellions forever. Eventually, they would send a larger fleet to crush the uprising and destroy Earth. Captain Tony Mitchell, now in command of the new destroyer called Liberty, patrolled the outer edges of the solar system. His sensors detected something disturbing. Vorthon scout ships were watching human space from a distance. "Admiral, we have company," Mitchell reported. 3 Vorthon ships at the edge of sensor range. They're not attacking, just observing. Rodriguez studied the tactical display. They're learning our patrol patterns, gathering intelligence for a future attack. The Vorthans were indeed planning their revenge, but they were being more careful this time. They had learned to respect human determination and ingenuity. On the bridge of a Vorthon observation ship, Commander Darketh watched human vessels patrol their territory. The humans have new ships, bigger and more powerful than before. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Veltar, studied the sensor readings. They're using our own technology. Their ships now have shields almost as strong as ours. Report this to the High Council, Darketh ordered. The humans are becoming more dangerous every day. Back on Earth, Ambassador Zilek of the Kellen Republic arrived for the first formal meeting between humans and a friendly alien species. The blue-skinned diplomat was amazed by what he saw. "Your people have accomplished the impossible," Zilek told Admiral Rodriguez during their meeting. "The Vorthans have never retreated from a battle in their entire history." "We were defending our home," Rodriguez replied. "We had no choice but to fight." "That is what makes you so dangerous to the Empire," Zilek explained. "Other species fight for territory or resources. Humans fight for principles. You cannot be negotiated with or bought off." Ambassador Zilek brought disturbing news from across the galaxy. The Vorthans are gathering a massive fleet, hundreds of ships from every corner of the Empire. They plan to destroy Earth and crush every rebellion at the same time. General Rogers leaned forward. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 1 year. Maybe less." Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had won 1 battle against 13 ships. Now they faced hundreds of Vorthon vessels. "We need allies," Rodriguez said. "Species who are willing to fight beside us." "Many would join you," Zilek replied. "But they need to see that humans can win more than 1 battle. They need proof that the Empire can truly be defeated." Over the following months, human ships began appearing in distant star systems. They helped rebel species fight against Vorthon occupation forces. Each victory added to humanity's growing reputation. Captain Lisa Carter, commanding the new cruiser called Vengeance, led the attack on a Vorthon slave camp in the Rigel system. Her ship worked alongside vessels from 3 rebel species to free thousands of prisoners. "The humans fight like warriors from legend," said Commander Thelak of the Rigel Defense Force. "They show no fear, even against impossible odds." News of these victories reached the Vorthon homeworld. Supreme Commander Vexthul realized that the humans were becoming more than just a nuisance. They were becoming the symbol of resistance against the Empire. "The humans must be destroyed," Vexthul declared to the High Council. "Not just defeated, completely exterminated. Every human world must be turned to ash." The Vorthan Empire began the largest military buildup in its history. Ships were called back from every corner of the galaxy. The mighty war machine that had conquered 200 species was preparing for its greatest battle, but humanity was preparing too. Dr. Phillips had designed new weapons based on captured Vorthan technology. Human shipyards worked around the clock to build vessels that could stand against the Empire's finest. "We have 60 ships now," Admiral Rodriguez reported to the Joint Human Command. "Still not enough to face the entire Vorthon fleet. But we won't be alone," General Rogers added. 17 species have pledged to fight beside us. They're sending their own fleets to help defend Earth." The stage was set for the greatest battle in galactic history, the Vorthon Empire against a coalition of rebels led by humanity. The outcome would determine whether freedom or tyranny ruled the stars. As both sides prepared for war, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of Vorthon dominance was ending, and a new era was about to begin. An era where the word human struck fear into the hearts of tyrants across the stars.